Hi, I'm Susan. I'm from Worldpeacefull, and I've been getting inspiration around talking about conflict. This blog will be called The True Nature of Conflict. But before I start, I will meditate for a few moments because I like to get centered. Meditation is very good for stilling the mind and getting clarity. So breathing in, breathing out. The reason breathing techniques like this are very important is that they actually create a natural state of peace within. You feel the body relax. You feel thought slow down because I'm concentrating on the breath going in and out. And it opens a space where you're receptive to truth, is probably the best way I would put it. And I'm not necessarily saying that everything I say is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. It's the truth that I'm feeling through my experience and through inspiration. Only you know your own truth, and that's always where you have to go for your own answers. And conflict is an inside job. It's nothing to do with the external reality you see outside yourself. We've actually got it all backwards, and we've had it backwards for a long time. We think that something outside of ourselves can cause us conflict inside ourselves. Now, most people will say, well, that's obviously true. If somebody came and hit you, you're not going to just walk peacefully by and go, oh, well, it's really happening all inside me. That's not what I mean. Yes, you are probably going to go, oh my God, someone's hit me. And you will be shocked. Your heart will start pumping, no question about it. But in respect of living the truth and cultivating a deeper sense of calm within, you'll recover from such an issue much faster, because the true control for peace, even control is not the right word. I'm just going to find the right word. I would see it as like a reset. You're resetting back to your true nature, which is peace. It's thoughts that cause inner conflict. And I know there certainly will be people saying, well, actually, you may react before you think, and that's true too. But it depends on the source of your response. And I say that because I'm thinking of Byron Katie here at the same time, who was an awakened teacher on the planet. She would never call herself that, but she most certainly is. She talks about walking into someone's house, their yard, their front yard. That's what we call it here in Australia. Walking down the drive towards the house, and attack dogs were snapping at her, barking at her. Now, most people would absolutely get a shock. I know I've been bitten by attack dogs in India, and I was absolutely shocked. I did return to calm fairly quick, but Byron Katie didn't get shocked at all. And this is the difference between someone who's awake and someone who's not. She actually observed. She has a technique that she uses very quickly. Is it true? Comes into her mind straight away. So, will I be attacked? Is the thought that would be happening really fast, or I'm going to get attacked and I'm frightened. It creates that fight and flight response immediately. You want to run, which, you know, is okay too. But Byron Katie, she's awake, so she will just go, if the thought comes into her mind, her body won't react. She'll just go, is it true? And of course, she can't project into the future. She's not living in the past, she's living in the present moment. This is where the power is. She can't project being bitten, therefore there's no fear, is what she would say. Now, in this case, these were a couple of Dobermans, I believe. They walked her to the top of the drive, she said. And they had a nice meeting and off she went. And that nice meeting is that she walked down the drive, they met her and walked her back up the drive. But because they can't sense any fear in her, they're not attacking her, because dogs are very sensitive to fear, as are all predatory type animals. And animals that are non-predatory. I'm just going into a deeper feeling there. Of course, they all sense fear. But those that are predatory are more likely to attack, is the point I'm making. Same goes for humans. If they're aggressive and insecure people, they're more likely to attack if they think you're fearful. That's why in the bullying issue, it's very important for you to master overcoming fear, because it's the fear that attracts. And beneath that is what we would call a vibrational universe, which is the vibration you send out. So powerlessness would be a vibration of someone who feels they have no power in a situation, and they may attract someone else who feels they have no power, but they seek power from you. Or it could be you seeking it from someone else. So that was just an introduction really into some of the dynamics in respect to believing our thoughts, in respect of conflict. Now, going back to what I said in the beginning, the world's got it backwards. We believe others are responsible for our discomfort, our trauma, our pain, and we seek to punish. And from that comes this right-wrong paradigm. Now, this will challenge many across the world, because we really do have very strong views on right and wrong. We've been taught that since we were children. There's a new consciousness arising on the planet. It's not even really new, it's actually ancient. But this awareness, if you like, is coming from a different paradigm to right and wrong. It could be reframed as what serves you and what does not serve you. The right-wrong brings with it judgment and punishment. To move into a more evolved society, we have to move away from punishment and take responsibility for our own inner conflict. Now, I mentioned before it's a vibrational universe. This works on the idea of, it's not even really an idea, it's a fact, the law of attraction. This is an energetic law. And you can certainly see it in the bullying area when someone's cowering. When I'm teaching anti-bullying, I'm teaching children body language, getting them to walk in a circle, to walk how they walk when they're happy, jumping around happy. If they're angry, one of the boys keeps going like this, violence. If you're scared, oh, don't look at me. You get smaller actually. When you're feeling fearful, you don't want to be seen, you try to become invisible. It's an instinct. But each of these states of being send out a vibration. And because we're all connected energetically, and I mean all of us are connected energetically across the planet, and I say that and back it up with the thought form of, imagine you walk into a room and you can feel the vibe of the room. So we can call vibration vibe. It's a happy vibe, everyone's laughing, having a good time. Maybe it's an uncomfortable one where you can see that people are not comfortable with each other in the room. They've just all met. You know, maybe they're having drinks or coffees or teas or whatever it is they're doing to communicate and connect. You could be walking into a room where everybody's really angry. There's been heated exchanges. you're going to feel that energy straight away. A protest is a good example of feeling the vibe, where people are protesting, they're really angry about something. I actually remember years ago, it was an experiment, it's one I wouldn't repeat, but I remember going to a protest that was a really specific protest. To do with an Australian that was engaged in terrorism overseas, actually, and he was being incarcerated. In respect to the protesters, felt that he was incarcerated illegally and unfairly. Now, I went to this protest dressed as a jester. I was testing to see whether a clown could somehow diffuse tension, and because it was a small protest and was very specific, they were pretty annoyed, not with me, but with the circumstances. There was a lot of anger in the air. And I did try to sort of pop up in there, but I saw that it didn't work, and I quickly retreated when I felt the vibe. I thought, no, this is not going to work. In a larger protest, it can work because there's lots of people, and typically there's little celebrations in the crowd as well. You know, some people have drumming, and, you know, a clown can kind of work with that, or they're walking along the street and a clown can come alongside and remind people to smile. To remind, or what I was doing was reminding we're all one, in actual fact. I see no enemy. Yes, I'm a great believer in democracy. I think people should speak up, say what they think. But I personally am not seeing an enemy, I'm seeing differences. So in my self-appointed role as a clown conflict resolver, my experiment was to distract, you know, by turning up in the crowd and, you know, oh, there's no enemy. Oh, there's the enemy. It's all right. You know, we're all one. You know, or say something light and jovial. I love you all. Inject the love in to sort of create, if you like, a buffer, because they're believing their angry thoughts, and a clown turns up, and unless they don't like a clown, then I could be in trouble. Typically, as a clown, I can disrupt their thought pattern in a really fun way, because they go, what's that? Because they don't expect a clown in a protest, do they? Although clowns could also be used to, you know, consolidate the group, you know. And I'm all for freedom of speech, so that's not hard for me to come alongside them. But I can come alongside either side, you know, because I don't see an enemy. So that is important for me to tell you, because the jester is typically known in historical terms as the one that speaks truth to power, but also the jester will throw humour in, hopefully, if they get a chance. It's a bit hard over email, but in person I can throw a bit of humour in to diffuse a certain line of thought that's negative and counterproductive. And of course, in the courts of the kings in England, jesters were used to be able to tell the truth to the king in a way that was humorous, in order for him to receive the truth, because people who are of that sort of power may not be open to any truth-telling at all. This is what absolute power creates. So it's metaphorical as well. Metaphorically, absolute power is not at all receptive to diverse viewpoints, as it will regard it as disloyal and somehow breaking down that sense of unity around that person, which they would see as protection. So beneath that would be an insecurity. So the jester or the clown can put some humour into speaking this truth to help this absolute leader or dictator to receive a truth that may be important for them to receive without being killed, essentially, in those times. And certainly in all cultures, there's been clowns that have been used to disrupt. Now, the disruption is not in some tribes, yes, it could be performed in a negative way, but typically speaking, it's not negative at all. But it's an interrupt of a prevailing way of thinking that's unchallenged. Now, in truth, this is in service to that other. The other may not see that, but in truth, it's in service to them. It's in no one's interests to allow dictatorship or unquestioned thinking that's potentially damaging to others to continue. It's actually a duty of care. And to care, in reality, doesn't require duty. When you feel for other people, you will speak up in one way or another. So going back to conflict, as I said in the beginning of this, we've got it backwards. We are responsible for the way that we feel. Now, it's taken me a long time to really get my head around this, because I've often had moments or conflicts where I've really felt the other has done something to me. And that's not to say that a negative behaviour didn't happen. It did. But where my work in peace begins and finishes is within myself. I can either give my power away and see something as a loss to me or something taken from me. You know, it could be dignity, or they could be speaking an untruth, and I could feel embarrassed or humiliated, or nothing that I say will ever be believed because the other is believed, and I may feel myself as innocent, not having done anything wrong. And what that can create within me is a sense of, shame or loss in some way, win-lose type scenario. But in the transformative peace work, we look within ourselves and we look for the nature of the discord. Now, I understand the chakra system. Chakra system is ancient Chinese. Chakras, we've got the crown chakra. This is the higher knowledge comes in through the crown. You've got the third eye, which is intuition. You've got the throat chakra, which is being able to speak. People who have blocked throat chakras can't speak up. They shut themselves down, actually. You've got the heart chakra around the center of the heart, the chest bone. You've got the solar plexus, which is to do with power. The navel and the base chakra, more to do with security issues, sexual issues. So the chakra system has been around for thousands of years. So when you feel conflict happening, when you become very present with yourself, that means still, able to listen inwardly, you will notice which chakra is activated. Now, if it's power, it'll be the solar plexus, which is just above the belly button. That's a belief within you that your power has been taken. And if you're giving attention to it, yes, your power has been taken. And I didn't understand that for a long time. I actually thought I was taking my power back when I was responding. But in actual fact, I was giving my power away. However, I don't regret any of the challenges I've had in the past, because they've all been ways to learn about conflict and peace, because I'm truly dedicated to peace. I have to look at where I'm disrupted, where I think something's important and why. And if it affects my inner sense of happiness, then I have to look at what other thoughts that I'm believing. And it's complicated stuff, conflict, because when we're in our early childhood, a lot of the emotional traumas have actually happened there. Now, I didn't realize to the extent of this until I started looking into Michael Brown's work, which is called the presence process, which is all about the breathing. He does continuous breathing, and it creates a sense of presence. Eckhart Tolle is another teacher of presence who uses breathing to just center yourself. It enables you to listen inwardly. And if there's any forms of stress or de-stress, you go inward and you actually locate where that stress is. It could be heartbreak too. You can feel it in your heart. And with presence, what you do is you sit with it. You feel it all the way through, and it actually dissolves. traumas come up because they're blocked emotional patterns. So when we suppress people, this is why suppression is not a good thing. When you suppress people, you're actually suppressing their emotions. Those emotions will eventually come up, but they might come up if somebody's not as focused on peace like I am. It might come up in violence. It could be suicide as well. They turn their violence inward. In truth, the suicide is really a seeking of escape from pain, emotional pain. And the emotional pain is always coming from this thought that you're less than or somehow not worthy, or there's esteem issues there, powerlessness issues there, isolation issues there. And that's why it's very, very important to become aware of how these feelings and emotions are moving within you. Because it's all energy. They call emotion energy in motion. That's why you feel passion. That's why you feel intense. That's why you feel anger. Anger is a call for help, typically. Someone can lose control when they get angry. But in reality, we don't want to control. We want to actually allow people to express their anger, but in ways that's non-destructive. Jealousy is a distortion of envy, for example. Obsession would be a distortion of love. Love is freeing in its natural form. So whenever we distort, you'll find that distortion is coming from suppression of some sort. So when parents have unwittingly told their children to be quiet, or to, if they're boys, to not cry, they're actually not helping their children, because they're actually stunting that emotional expression, which is very necessary as a human being. It's got nothing to do with females and males. Females typically are allowed to cry and feel their emotions. However, there are societal attitudes around crying where it's seen as okay for women or females or girls, if you like, to cry. But for males, it's not okay. And they are judged severely by male peers and other men who see it as a weakness. Now, the only thing I would say to that is it's just the ego weakening because love is entering into that field of energy. What that means is when someone is very loving towards you, when you're very angry, or when you are walled up in some way or shut down, and someone's very warm towards you, you will find yourself weakening towards that person. And what that really means is you're softening. You're softening that hard wall that's been erected all your life. It starts to soften as you feel the threat of whatever is outside of yourself dissipating. That's why love is a force more powerful in this world, because love is like the mother to the child, the father to the child, looking into your child's beautiful face and falling in love. That's a joining of sorts. And when we fall in love with someone, there's a joining that's happening there. In reality, what love really is seeing people for who they really are. If we were in a heightened state of awareness and we'd healed a lot of the discords from our childhood where we hadn't been able to express fully our emotions, when we've healed all that and we come to a place of great inner peace and tranquility, you will look out upon the world and you will fall in love with everyone. I've had the experience myself as a clown. It's very easy. I actually don't find people hard to fall in love with. When I say that, I'm not talking romantic love. I'm talking about, really looking at someone and just seeing the beauty in them. And if they dance with you or play, being a clown, they'll come and play with me. And that play is joking, could be, dancing around in a circle. It could be exaggerating my expressions, and they're laughing. So we're laughing together. This is the beauty of innocent play. And in those moments, I feel that there's no boundary whatsoever. No boundary whatsoever. I see nothing to criticize, nothing. There is no criticism in my mind whatsoever when I'm in that moment, because I'm not thinking. As soon as the beliefs come in that have been conditioned by an education system, by families, by friends, by media, that's when we start to tarnish that beautiful, clear vision of others. We tarnish it with a judgment. And the minute that judgment comes in, we're seeing the world in a different light. And that's not to say that we can't speak truth to another and say that this is what I'm noticing, this is a behaviour that I'm seeing, and be factual about it. But always to open a space for dialogue. Even in behaviours that are negative, I'm a great believer in dialogue. Not forced dialogue though. They have to want to speak. If we can create environments where it's safe and encouraged to speak our truth with each other, conflicts can be very, very quickly dissipated, because conflict is always erroneous. It's never true. And what I'm trying to convey here is, when you're in the truth, you will see nothing but beauty. And I really can say this 100% is true. There is nothing unacceptable, and I know this because love is truth. That's why I often speak in a narrative of love, because I see it as truth. But it can get very confused in a world that only equates love to family or lovers. That universal love of which I'm speaking, and unconditional love of which I'm feeling, is to look at the world in a way that accepts the other for who they are. As soon as I bring judgment in as right or wrong, then I start to bring in this tarnishing. It's an obscuring of vision. It's a distorting of what I'm seeing as I see the enemy, or I see you are wrong. You think of how we judge a person by labeling them. The moment we label, that can be called a smear as well. We smear them. That's what the smear is. There because you're actually distorting. That's why the person's getting smeared. It's to ensure that they're seen in a negative light, not for who they are. The work of Byron Katie is really a training in seeing others without a story, and it's really only five questions. So let's just say, well, let's think of something negative. The world is facing collapse. Let's just put it there. Okay, that could be a fear that's in the world. Everyone's fearful that things are collapsing. First question would be, is it true, yes or no? Well, I'm looking around myself right now and I'd have to say no. Can I be absolutely sure that the world is collapsing? Well, no. Around me it's not happening, because I'm looking at reality right now. Third question is, how do you feel, how do you believe when you believe the thought that the world is collapsing? I feel I have to store food. I have to find safety. I lose hope in the future. I'm frightened. How do I feel? Fearful. It's unknown. So I'm feeling upset. I can feel loss, feel angry. People are not making sure the world is okay and safe. So my reaction could be a loss of belief in the system, and really frightened that violence is going to break out everywhere, that I'm not safe. So the fourth question is, who would you be without that thought? If I could not believe that the world is going to collapse, and I look out on the world without that story, what do I see? I see a world that's not collapsing. The world's fine. Seems stable from where I'm sitting. Then the next one is interesting. These are the turnarounds. So I turn around that question to the opposite, to the other, and to the self. So if I was to turn the world is collapsing to the opposite, it would be the world is not collapsing. Then I'd look for 3 reasons why that's true. Well, my world is not collapsing. I'm actually fine. I feel in peace. I've got food, got water. My world's not collapsing. The world around me is not collapsing. I can see that the walls aren't shaking. Nothing's collapsing. Financially, money is in the bank. It's not collapsing. So you'd look for reasons for that. So you turn it to the self. I'll go to the self. That would be my world is not collapsing, and you look for 3 reasons why that's true. And then the world is not collapsing. The world is not collapsing, the world is collapsing. Interesting anyway. So these are called turnarounds, and you can play with them in any way you want. But essentially, it works on the idea of projection. When we believe the world is collapsing, we look for evidence. Oh, look, it's collapsing there, it's collapsing there. See, it really is collapsing. And as we put energetically our thoughts out there, because everything's energy, your thought is not contained within your mind, within your head. In actual fact, it's electromagnetic. That's why we're on the same wavelength when we're with someone that we really get. We're actually electromagnetically connecting because thought is electromagnetic. That's how people can stand up and talk to a whole group of people and influence them. And those people are feeling inner resonance with what's been said. And maybe that person's saying something that's a self-fulfilling prophecy or somehow validating of those in the audience. So, yep, we always thought that was the case. You know, the law of attraction is that you attract what you think about. What you think about, you bring about. Because matter is really energy, swirling energy that becomes solidified. It's all vibrating at a certain frequency. So, for example, you know, my computer, I can touch my screen here. I'm just touching it. It seems solid. Back here, that's solid. My hat, my scarf, me, all vibrating at the same frequency because I can feel it. It appears solid. And yet, you have people who see apparitions spiritually. I have a friend who's a medium. She can see people behind people because her frequency has lifted. And so she's able to see into another frequency because her frequency is high like that other frequency. That's why, you know, believe it or not, yes, people can move through solid objects. That can happen. I know someone who's done it because they lifted their frequency. The frequency of conflict is a base chakra frequency of security. We fight because we feel insecure. But rather than tackle the core problem of insecurity by developing within oneself a sense of security, often spiritual awareness can be a form of security because you feel you're connected to something much greater than the physical life. You have something that you can believe in or something. I mean, in many religions, they believe they're protected. Us spiritual people too think that they're protected. I see love as the greatest protector because when you're in a state of love, you're not going to attract the attack. If someone feels threatened, they're going to want to attack you, and they might do it consciously or unconsciously. They might even undermine you. This is, of course, the nature of bullying, the repeated negative behavior, and that occurs because of unquestioned thinking that is perceiving a threat from someone else who then becomes typecast and demonized as an enemy. And that demonization can be conscious or unconscious, but it's a way of smearing them to make them look like they're less or somehow guilty or somehow wrong. And then the ego will say, I'm right. I'm right, you're wrong. It could even be in a court of law where a finding has happened. And that's right. This one's right, you're wrong. That's end of story, and then that sticks. And that could be a travesty of justice that occurs. People could be giving false evidence. People could be lying within that forum. Evidence can be tampered with. You often see that in political situations where there's an opposition leader who's called a pedophile, or they're somehow demonized in some way by the opponent in order to really smear them, so their reputation and credibility is completely destroyed. And that's what people do when they find another a threat. But rather than looking inwardly and looking at what it is within them that's feeling threatened, and is it true, as I just described with the work of Byron Katie, going through the questioning of the story that's being projected, and then playing around with consciousness to actually look at the other without the story. So if you looked at me right now, dropping all stories of who you think I am, and just noticing a hat. I'll take the hat off, actually. I'll take the hat off. Just look at me. Don't look at me as attractive or unattractive or grey-haired or... I'm probably planting seeds now. But if you can just look and drop the story, you will see person on your screen, blinking. It's a little bit like the cup, you know. Here's my cup. We can say this cup is a nice cup, or it's an awful cup, it's a boring cup, or it's just a cup. To look at something without a story, you just say it's got a handle, it's white, this is its shape. That's looking at the cup without a story, you know. So to look at people without a story, and if you could look at your enemy without a story, and just simply look. Now, in spiritual circles, they'll say, look into the eyes, and look deeply into the eyes of a person, and you will see their essence. And that essence is exactly the same as yours. There is a light essence within every single human being. What are the eyes are the windows of the soul. And inherent within that looking glass is consciousness, is life. And in truth, it's eternal. So conflict on our planet is really a story that we tell ourselves about someone else as we conjure up reasons why they're a threat to us. And the threat is usually to our identity, it's to our way of thinking. You know, we feel somehow diminished by the other, and therefore a corresponding diminishment happens. We put them down so that we feel bigger. Or bullying is really the same thing. You know, it's really powerlessness in search of power. And yet the real power is not in dominating other people or hurting other people. The real power is to know yourself and be true. And that's where the presence work comes in, is really sitting with yourself, really questioning your thoughts. Is it true what I'm thinking? And what you will find, if you really want a barometer as to whether you're in the truth or not, it feels good when you're in the truth, and you'll feel joy and compassion arising. But these things can only be truly felt once you've dealt with the blockages and barriers and the hurts from the past that have clouded what you see in the world. Your parents' narrative and what their beliefs were, you would have taken in as a child. Your culture, your language, your occupation, your gender, your physicality, you know, what you look like, whether you're disabled or, you know, I was going to say or abled. I see disability as an ability, but in a different way. But you get my point. There's great diversity in the world that gets judged all the time. And we unwittingly get ourselves into conflict, or wittingly, either seeking to gain power from the conflict and to win over someone else, because we've been taught that winners are grinners and losers are weepers, you know, and to be strong is the, you know, survival of the fittest is the strongest. Well, it's not. The survival of the most wise, the survival. There is no survival, actually, when wisdom is the predominant filter through which you look. You won't need to survive because you know your happy destiny is inevitable, and you will see no threat because you'll see yourself as well beyond the physical body. And those who start to get into more metaphysical awareness start to understand that it doesn't stop at the physical. We're far greater than we know. And we have enormous potential as a community once we overcome conflict. We have a lot of work to do on educating children in peace, values-based peace education. I'll just quickly tell you about mine. Real Hopes is the program I created, and it's a peace, non-violence and anti-bullying program. You can check it out on my website. So it's an acronym for responsibility, empathy, awareness, love, honesty, oneness, peace, enjoyment, and service. And I see that as a rainbow kaleidoscope, each colour reflective of a universal value. When we truly integrate these values, responsibility means the ability to respond. We will always respond because we're responding to an aspect of ourselves. We see the world as one. When you see that other person as family or yourself, you will always respond. If you don't respond, then you're actually not responding to an aspect of yourself. You're shutting that aspect down if you see everyone as one. I'm sure scientists can certainly relate to this on a vibrational level. They know that it's all interdependent, the whole system that we're living on in this earth and even in the cosmos. So empathy is standing in someone's shoes, imagining what it is like to be them. Well, how would you feel if you were treated in that negative way? Would it make you feel happy? If you can imagine what it felt like for the other person, you might be more willing to step across the room and talk to that other. So when we see homeless people, rather than walking past, we might actually sit with them and talk to them and imagine, what if it was me who was on the street without food and freezing? I would want someone to come up with a blanket or something warm to drink, or maybe a little bit of money or a hotel room, or maybe open up your room and give them a place to sleep. Awareness is really an expanded vision. When we're little children, we have a narrower, well, I'm just thinking about that, probably a different awareness before language kicks in and thought processes. Children are very emotional, so their awareness is their feelings. And as we grow up, we start to move into more intellectual, mental type processes. And they say at around 30, the spiritual life kicks in, where people start to question, mortality and life after death and reincarnation, spirituality, religion. These things start to enter people's minds by about 30. And as we get up to about 50, they call that the growing up time. We're actually immature up until 50. So when we hit 50, so there might be hope for me. Maturity anchors into you, and you start to look at the world with a wiser mind and heart. You're not so quick to react, and there's plenty of room for understanding of the people because you've been there yourself by the time you get to that age. So empathy, you're more likely to empathise given your experiences. So that's REA, so A, awareness. So we've got responsibility, empathy, awareness, love. Love, of course, is a feeling of unity, feeling of warmth, towards the world. Happiness, joy, compassion, all these things come out of love. We're more willing to walk across a room towards someone we're in conflict with, or on some level communicate with them, because we honour who they are as part of the human family. Love is a grossly misunderstood term, and yet when we all start to realise that love is who we are, our essence, then we won't get so confused about what it really means. We'll know we're coming either from love or fear. Fear is a contraction, movement away, a rejection. Love is a sharing, caring, revealing and healing. That's what it means. So that's how you know you're being moved by love or by fear. Fear will always attack or demonize or withhold. Fear will build up weapons. Fear will isolate, alienate, and it will exclude people on the basis. That's how we can see fear operating. So honesty is speaking the truth on all levels. Speak clearly, bring up the facts. You have to reveal yourself when you're being honest. You can't hide. Even if others are hiding, you can't. If you believe in truth. People don't want to hear the truth, of course, because they might then see themselves as somewhat deficient, even though they're not. We're here to learn. So truth can open up awareness. And if we can become less identified with our egos, we're more likely to hear the truth. So that's honesty, oneness. We're all one family, one breath, one world, one ecosystem. What we do to another, we do to the self. We're literally one consciousness permeating all life forms. All life forms on the planet have consciousness, even rocks. You can feel it in the land. As you become more sensitive, you become more still, you'll start to feel that everything's got energy. And those who awaken say that it's all vibrating. They see everything vibrating and everything is one. It's amazing. Byron Katie said that when she awakened. You can go to her website, thework.com. Very amazing lady. She saw everything as one, nothing separated at all. So everyone is her. Hard one to grasp, isn't it? You can't have conflict with yourself if you're all one. Therefore, the responsibility always returns to self for discord. And we all don't like to do that because it's much easier blaming other people. But wouldn't it be nice if we could all come together and just talk about it and help each other walk down the path together? But at the moment, we still see adversarial conflict. So we've got peace. So this is real hope, honesty, oneness, peace is the yin and the yang, the dark and the light, the up and the down, the feminine, the masculine, the opposites. But peace is, at its essence, fearlessness. There's no fear in peace because you don't identify with the body anymore. You identify with a higher consciousness that's at peace. So when we remove all discord from doing the inner work, when we really face all our fears and they dissolve, what remains is a spaciousness, they say, and you will feel enormous peace. There's a groundedness that comes with peace as well. It's not a floaty thing. When I feel peace, I'm incredibly grounded. And I'm very much where I am is where I am. It's home. So for me, peace is home, not the house that I'm living in. I'm home wherever I go. Enjoyment, of course, is the clown, which is what I love. And joking, having humour, laughing at our inconsequentialities, our flaws, laughing at our mistakes and knowing that there is no mistake in life. That life is meant to unfold as it does, and we can laugh with each other and have fun. And that's the sort of world I'd like to see emerge, is one where we're not so serious, we're actually having a good joke. So it's enjoyment. Last one, service. So once you integrate all those values, and this is the integration of universal values, service becomes natural. You'll just naturally serve the rest because everybody is you. And there's no ego in that. It's just that you see them as yourself, your higher self. You see the light in them. And you see no one as worthless or unworthy. Everybody has worth because everybody is love. They just might be a little confused at the moment because of what they're taught, which is why they're acting out of the fear that they're acting out of. But when you see them for who they really are, there's nothing unacceptable about them. So that's the real hope, and that is the universal value. So again, the conflict, we have to start to look into where the discord is within us. We have to listen to voices, to become discerning of those voices that divide, where they seek to create an enemy or demonize someone, exclude them on some basis. That's a form of discrimination as well. Don't listen to those voices. Always look for the pathway to peace. How can we accommodate this diversity? How can we raise awareness in order to ensure the well-being of not only ourselves but each other? What can we learn from this conflict? What is it teaching me about myself? Can I look upon that other as a teacher? Because I can assure you everyone is a teacher, without doubt. So if we can look with eyes that are open to learning, and if someone is saying something that's true, we'll take it on board and go, okay, I'll change. Don't be proud and say, how dare you speak to me in this way? Look within and say, well, is it true? If it's true, then take it on. If it's not, well, then just say politely, I cannot see that in myself, but thank you for sharing, having the courage to share it with me. For someone to tell you the truth about yourself is probably one of the kindest acts. If they're doing it in a way that's non-violent, they're definitely being kind to you. If you're not able to receive it, it's because you've got blockages and barriers where you're feeling you're being made deficient through this critique. You're not. You're being given a gift and an opportunity that you can either open up or you can push aside. But life will bring that back to you because life is dynamic, it's intelligent, and interestingly enough, what we see is things returning to us because there's something we haven't figured out about that experience just yet. So we might find recurring events in our lives. They're recurring patterns because something has not completed. There's an understanding that hasn't happened. And we may draw it to us unwittingly through the law of attraction. It comes back again for our attention. And if there's still discord happening, that's the work that has to be worked on. So I've been at this for many years now. I'm really working on it. It's not easy because we really do have conditioned mind patterns and they take time to undo. The presence work is about facing all emotional pain, sitting with it and allowing those experiences to completely be felt. You have to feel your pain. You cannot run from it. You cannot hide from it. You cannot take drugs or soothe it in some way through getting a glee club around you to agree with you, to make you feel better about yourself. The hardest work is to sit alone and to feel the pain on your own and to really go into that pain. Allow that pain to be there. The teachers will say that it's like a friend. Invite that pain. Feel it right through. When you feel it right through, it dissolves. That's why it's inner work. What we've been doing in the world is we're fighting the other to get rid of them because we believe they're the cause of our discomfort. They're not. Esther Hicks, Law of Attraction, have a look at it on the web. She talks about a well-stocked kitchen as a metaphor. And she gives the example of the person who doesn't like the Tabasco sauce. Rather than throwing it out of the kitchen, you don't focus on it. If you don't want the Tabasco sauce in your pie, you do not focus on it. You focus on what you want only. Law of attraction brings you whatever you focus on. It doesn't matter whether it's negative or positive, it gets into your reality if you're focusing on it. So if you're wanting resolution, if you're wanting peace, if you're wanting social stability, if you're wanting well-being, if you're wanting economic abundance, or abundance, let's say, we can even drop the economic. If you're wanting happiness, then you focus on all those things that bring you that feeling of having had it. Because the way this true universe works is that it's vibrational, and it really does create on the basis of what we think about. That's why positive thinking people have been out there making lots of money, because they're teaching focus on what you're wanting. But in this type of process, you think of it as you've got it, because we're all one and it's all in the kitchen. So just imagine it's in the kitchen and you already have it. It's quite a high level of mastery, self-mastery, because we have doubt that comes in, which can take that scenario away. You can nearly manifest something and then it dissipates because you've got doubt sitting there. So have an investigate into what I'm telling you here. If we want peace in the world, well, we focus on inner peace, and it creates outer peace for sure. That's how you create the peace across the planet. But if we keep utilizing media as a form of fear mongering, creating more stress and fear in the public, they're going to be focusing on these things that frighten them, and they'll draw them to them. And that might be hard for people to accept, but I can assure you the law of attraction is a real phenomenon. Do your own investigation, find your own truth. I'm just sharing with you what is now my truth. And I'm doing that out of sense of love and peace for you. So if you want to go to my website, www.worldpeacefull.com. I have a business site too, if you want to look into the bullying issue, because really working on the vibrational stuff is the way to go with bullying too. You have to develop self-esteem in order to dissipate the bullying. So that's biz.worldpeacefull.com. So the true nature of conflict is it's all in our heads. When we question our thinking, love is the essence beyond all conflict. Conflict creates the contrast, which helps us to find our way back to who we are, and we expand our understanding of things through conflict. So conflicts can be a great way to learn. But the true nature of conflict is expansion of consciousness in truth. There's always a reason behind everything. So with that, I send you peace and love and conflict resolution. Bye.